I am going to be talking about walking together with families, but mostly families in association with adults that have disabilities. So when you think that, you've had a child, your child has a disability, they've gone through school, they're now 20 years old, and then they're 22 years old and school is over, you're thinking to yourself, okay, all of their connections at school, all of their connections in community are probably now gone, and what is their future? And if the church is not there, it's a very, very bleak future. The unemployment rate is sky high for people, for adults with disabilities. And so most of my friends that have disabilities that I hang out with, I ask them, what does your day look like? Well, I eat breakfast. Okay, what do you usually eat? A Pop-Tart, okay, or maybe a frozen burrito because I don't know how to use the stove, so I don't know how to cook eggs. Okay, so you've had breakfast, now what do you do? Watch TV. Okay, and then it comes to be lunchtime, what do you do in the afternoon? Watch TV. Do you go for a walk? Well, maybe sometimes, but my neighborhood is not really safe, and so I don't like to go outside unless I have a friend, and I don't have any friends nearby. All right, so watch TV. What do you watch? We have discussion about their favorite game shows. Okay, now it's dinner time. What do you do in the evening? Watch TV. And then I go to bed. And then I start the next day exactly the same way. You would be so discouraged if that's your life. But if you don't know adults with disabilities who are trying to negotiate living by themselves in the community, you don't know how lonely they can be. So let me get started with our family. Just so you have a visual, there's Jeff, who is 6'7". I'm only 5'7". My daughter in the green jacket, she's 6'2". So, and she's an attorney, and so talk about intimidating. Here she is, taller than anyone else, taller than the judge. People listen to her. She is married and has the 2 children. And then standing next to Jeff is our son, Josh, who lives about 20 minutes from us. And he has twins. And so Jeff and I have 3 4-year-olds and 1 6-year-old grandchild. So the daughter in the green jacket is starting a new adventure with their family. They are moving to Vietnam in December. She got accepted to work for the State Department. So she's going to be a foreign service officer working with visa and immigration issues. So they are leaving in December for 2 years. So we hope to visit. We'll do lots of WhatsApp, lots of FaceTime to see them. But Josh and Jeff travel around for a YouTube blog. And that's his main job. My son's main job is traveling for YouTube. So let me get to the next one. All right, just a few of these. If you just look quickly at this, we've talked about that we've seen people with disabilities as other. They're not human. They're sort of like alien. We other them and put them in another category. We think they're too needy. Oh, if I'm friends with them, they're gonna want to ride to the grocery store. And then maybe they won't have enough food and I'm gonna have to buy something for them. Or they don't have any other friends at church, so they're gonna sit by me every Sunday. So we think of them as having way too many needs. We are intimidated by the unknown. Like Kim just said in the last presentation, she didn't know anybody with disabilities. So it was a completely foreign thing for her to get to know someone with a disability. And it's much easier to write a check than to be personally involved. Jeff and I have had discussions with people at our church. Hey, could you give a ride to John next Sunday? We're going to be out of town. John is an individual with a disability, doesn't have a driver's license. Where our church is located, there's no transportation like buses that drop off nearby. Could you give a ride to John? well, I think I have to go to my daughter's baseball game afterwards, so it's sort of inconvenient. And anyway, I put money in the offering plate for the ministry. So I tithe towards it, but I don't want to give my time. And this is just sort of another way to other or not be involved in people's lives. So the mandates in the scripture you can go through, but in other words, Christians are disobedient. And we've been disobedient for thousands of years since we've had a church. And it has to stop. It just has to stop. The problem continues. We've not wanted to go out of our comfort zone. We focus on priorities of individuals that we think can tithe and teach in the children's ministry. So if you get someone maybe that is nonverbal or who only has a couple $100 a month as income, then they're not really sought after as members because maybe they're going to be too needy. We think we need a program like, oh, I don't have an adult program at my church, or I don't have a kids program at my church, so I can't have kids with disabilities, I can't have adults with disabilities. So we think we need to have a program before we're just a friend with someone. And we know that having these folks in our midst might cause us to change. I'm just going to sort of skip through here so I can get down to some nitty-gritty with adult ministry. But look at the one that says, not answering rhetorical questions. So our pastor used to come up and he would say, hi guys, so glad to see you this morning. I hope that you've had a great day. And some of our adults with disabilities would go, yeah, pastor, I had pizza last night. And people are like, oh, that really wasn't a question, but I'm really excited about the pizza I had. And so it bothers people's worship. And you know those little cards that they're in church and you write a comment? Sometimes the comments are like, I don't like the color of the carpet, or the music was too loud. But often the comments are, somebody talking about pizza affected my worship and I wasn't able to concentrate. Well, as Jeff has said, and other people today, and last night, a social skill deficit, if that person doesn't have the ability to change and we reject them because of that, we sit, not them. And so our pastor doesn't ask rhetorical questions anymore. So he just sort of says, good morning, everyone. And lots of people will say, good morning. So that's totally what he would expect. And nobody talks about pizza because it wasn't like, I hope you had a great day. Standing and sitting at the right time. Oh my goodness, if you raise your hand like this, rather than like this, or you dance a little bit during the worship in your seat, people are going to be like, you're supposed to be standing still. Only the worship team is supposed to have a little bit of rhythm. Or why are you putting your hand up straight? You're supposed to put your hands like this. I mean, we have such a small little line of what's normal. And as soon as anyone is past that, then we want to reject them, or we think that our worship is being bothered. I'll go to the next one for now. Okay. The individuals with disabilities, I'll just read this, and their families at your church are your best resources in learning how to serve them well. At the basic level, they want what all other families want: a place to be accepted, a place to worship, to serve, and to make friends. So if I ask you, what was the topic or the three main points of the sermon last Sunday that your pastor did here? You'd all like look at your shoes because you probably don't remember. But I could ask you, who did you sit by last Sunday? Oh yeah, my friend from work, or I sat by my wife, or I sat by my kids. Or if I would say, who did you hang out with to get a cup of coffee after the service? Oh yeah, Jeremy and Joyce, we had a great discussion. So even though we are Christians and we value our devotion time and we're trying to grow in the Lord, what we remember from church is usually our relationships. And so we're taking that away from adults that aren't integrated into our sanctuaries. All right, okay, I'm going to stop here and go with my other notes. Okay, so our church has had a ministry for adults for almost 33 years, completely volunteer. So there's no disability pastor. There's 5 hours a week of admin support from an administrative assistant who will make a flyer if we need it, or order supplies if we need supplies. Our budget from the church is about $5,000 a year. And that is used for mostly turning in a receipt for buying groceries for someone. A microwave breaks down, we need to get somebody a new microwave. We need some more snacks on a Sunday morning. And so if you're sitting there saying, I've been hearing all about, director of ministry at a church, and this pastor of disabilities and the assistant that they have. We don't have that at all. So completely volunteer-led for 33 years, and about 60 adults affected by disability come every Sunday. And so we started with just a few. The disabled community is really well connected. When they find something that is fun or something that includes them, the word is out. Even though maybe social media isn't something that they can really do because they don't have a smartphone, they don't know how to access the internet, they'll tell their friends, hey, this church, they have this great thing going, why don't you come? And so most of those adults do not have transportation to church. And so that's been a really difficult thing for 33 years, to try to get rides to church. So pretty much we're down to a system now. We have about 10 volunteers, and there's some adults that live with their parents, so the families will bring them, usually bring them, drop them off, and they go to a different church, which is totally appropriate. When you're a young adult, about 21, 22, you probably start to go to a different church than your parents. And so that's great that they've chosen this for their adult child, or their adult child is thinking that this is their church. They go to a different church. So great, Sunday morning's pretty much covered. Now all of a sudden, Sunday afternoon, there's a picnic 2 hours after church stops. So people are supposed to go home, get your kids dressed, maybe let your little ones lay down for a nap, change your clothes, come back to church at 3 o'clock. Maybe there's going to be games in the parking lot and a barbecue. We can't get people there because our rides are just Sunday morning. If there's a family picnic at a beautiful mountain resort once a year, nobody from no adult with disabilities has gone for 10 years because the bathrooms are inaccessible. And the sand is something that's really hard to walk on or hard to push a wheelchair. You need to bring your own food, and they don't have the finances to bring their own food. It's an all-church picnic. No pastor has ever come to Jeff and I and said, wow, where have you guys been? We've missed you for 10 years. It's a viable ministry at our church, and now we're not missed. And I think, there's lots of research that says, if you're not missed, you really don't belong. And so this is such an enigma to try to figure out how to try to change the church. I don't have the answers for that. I just know that being able to work with a person with a disability and call them a friend is changing me and hopefully changing people in my circle. And that's sort of how it has to start. So one of the concepts in adult ministry is the role of poverty. At least in Inland Empire, San Bernardino area, the income is about $886 a month. For a person with an intellectual disability, they get that through a government check. That doesn't go very far. Many of them have housing assistance, Section 8, and so Section 8 says your rent can only be a third of your total income. So if your income is about $900 a month, your rent is about $300 a month. Do you think those apartments are in nice areas of town? Shake your head, no. No, not the ones that are where the government is willing to say, okay, this apartment normally goes for $1,200. We've had a hard time renting them all because it's sort of in a shady area where maybe the grocery store is 2 miles away and there's not a lot of things going on. There's no parks for kids or anything, and so a lot of families don't want to live there. So this will be our Section 8 apartment. So you have 50, 60 adults with disabilities that are coming to church. They only have $800 or $900 a month, unless they're fortunate to have a job, which is only about 5% of the adults that we hang out with. So having an amazing spread for breakfast is like life-changing. It might be the only thing they eat that day. So Jeff is a huge Pop-Tart fan. Do you know what Pop-Tarts are? I think they're really nasty, but he loves them. And so we have a toaster that was donated. We have 2 or 3 different varieties of Pop-Tarts. There's a line for people to cook their Pop-Tarts. We have cheese, we have gluten-free cookies, we have coffee, we've got 3 or 4 different kinds of cold drinks, raspberry iced tea that you can't afford if you got $900 a month, lemonade, water, hot cocoa. And so it's just, you walk in and here's your church and you have breakfast. And so a lot of the first 15 minutes or so of class is people getting their food, getting their 3rd or 4th cup of coffee. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing, especially for adults that live in group homes where everything is so regulated. They arrive at church and they can have as much coffee as they want. Or people will even serve them a cup of coffee rather than, no, just one. No. I mean, most of you drink more than 1 cup of coffee a day. But we've regulated that with adults with disabilities in group homes. Social events. We have lots and lots of social events, and we do a donation basis. So we went to the beach. We rented a big bus. The bus cost $1,600 to rent. That's a lot to go from Redlands to Huntington Beach. It takes about 75 minutes. And then parking is $100. We bought a bunch of Little Caesars pizza, cooked some s'mores, but a lot of times this is the only time people get to go to the beach. And I remember the first year we did it, folks walked off the bus, stood there, tears streaming down their face, because they've seen a beach on National Geographic on TV. Remember, they watch it on TV. But the feel of the sand, the seagulls flying, the waves crashing, the smell of the ocean, life-changing. And now they can talk to their friends if they went to the beach, rather than, nope, I've never been to the beach. So social events are really, really important. And a lot of times we have people that will donate towards those, so we can cover the cost of those. But we might say, a suggested donation to go to the beach is $10. Remember, guys, if you tried to take a bus there, you'd have to transfer like 5 times. You'd have half an hour before you had to transfer to come back. You'd have to bring a food, and it wouldn't be as fun of an experience as sitting on a bus and hanging out with your friends. So $10 is a really good cost. So some people put a quarter in the bag. Other people, maybe whose parents are subsidizing their income a little bit, will put $15 in. But it's always as nobody's even looking at what they're putting in. Okay, paid relationships. Most adults with disabilities, their friendships are paid. So they have a living instructor that will come to their apartment or come to their home, help them figure out, oh, you need more milk. Let's put that on the list for the grocery store. Oh, you haven't had a physical in 2 years. Let's call the doctor and make an appointment. I'll write it down that I can come give you a ride. Oh, you wanted to get the newest DVD that just came out. Let's see if you have it in your budget. All right, we'll go to Walmart and get it. So these people who are paid to be with them become their best friends. And that's so sad, because we have a friend, Jamie. His worker is Leanne. He loves Leanne. But if Leanne was to quit tomorrow for a better paying job, he would be devastated. Leanne would probably never think of Jamie again, because it's an employer relationship. And so Jeff mentioned that we brought adults with disabilities into our classes at Cal Baptist this week. And I specifically asked him, I said, okay, where do you make your friends? Oh, I had lots of friends in high school. Okay, well, you're 45, so are you still talking to people from high school? No. Where do you make your friends? Well, my mom has introduced me to a lot of her friends, and sometimes I'd go to her house and we play cards. Those are my friends. Okay. Who are your friends? Oh, the bus driver. I love him. He takes me to my day program. Oh, what's his name? Oh, Sam. And are you friends? Yeah, when I get on the bus, he goes, hey, buddy. He's such a good friend. I just love him. Probably doesn't even know the guy's name. And so, as a church, we can do better. We can have friendships where you can actually come to my house, have Christmas at my house. Come and have a barbecue. I'll pick you up and go to my kids' basketball practice. I mean, as a parent, you guys have probably been to too many basketball, soccer practices. As an adult with disability, you may have never done that. You get to sit in a folding chair, and maybe there's a popcorn at the snack machine. You get to yell for the kid that you've loved because you love me. And then maybe afterwards we'll go for a Slurpee, and you can talk about, hey, you did great at the game. Give me your practice. Give me a high five. So those are the kind of friendships that people get from church. And those 4 people that were in my class, I said, okay, you've told me about the bus driver, told me about your mom's friends that you hang out with. You've told me about the friends from high school, but where do you make friends today? Church, 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 all 4 of them. So if they didn't have church, they wouldn't have friends. So that's a very important thing to think of, paid relationships versus friendship. The concept of busy, all of you guys probably are listening to me, you have good eye contact, but you're thinking, oh, I have to pick up milk on the way home. I got to get up, set my alarm for church tomorrow morning. I got to set up the coffee machine at church. I need to run by the gas station on the way home when I'm done tonight, and maybe we'll be done a few minutes early so I can actually run into that store before it closes. So you're thinking of all of the things you have to do because you're busy. Our friend, Jeff, and my friend called me a couple years ago and said, hey, Kathy. I said, yeah, how's it going, Mark? Oh, fine. What does it mean to be busy? Everybody always says they're busy. I said, well, busy is when you have lots to do. Maybe you have to pay the bills today. Maybe you have to go to the doctor. Maybe you have to go pick up your kids from school. Maybe you have to go to Walmart. He goes, oh, well, I'm not busy. And so we've sort of taken that as, you guys can be the best prayer warriors ever. I mean, you all do your devotions, you all follow along in the sermon notes, you're praying as you drive your car, but you also have a zillion other things to do. If you're watching TV all day, you can be encouraged to just, every time you turn the channel or do the remote, thank God that you have a TV. And then next time, thank God you have friends. And the next time, thank God you have food. Pray for the pastors, pray for Jeff, pray for me, pray for, your landlord. So giving them things to do during the day and then allowing them to serve at church. Allow, quote unquote. That's how we sort of think of it. We allow them to serve rather than knowing that every single person is gifted to serve. There's a bunch of Bible verses that talk about that. So one guy, he gets to greet, and he will talk about, I can't wait till Sunday when I get to greet people. Oh, what's your job there? Oh, I get to stand outside and I get to say, welcome to church, and I get to shake their hand. And usually they say, thank you, and they smile at me, and then they go into church. And once in a while, one of them will come and say, oh, thank you for greeting me today. And that just makes me feel so good. And now that I've greeted really well, now I get to help collect the box that's in the back with the offering. Because our church, since COVID, hasn't done bulletins and hasn't collected offering. So it's sort of, you can look at the bulletin online and you can pay online. Adults with disabilities don't have access to look at the bulletin online. And they don't know how to do a QR code, most of them. They don't know how to, set up a normal kind of withdrawal for the church's account. And so they look forward to getting their quarter out and putting it in the offering plate. Or they look forward to holding the offering plate and actually being able to pass it and giving someone a program. So he says, we don't do the offering anymore, but there's a box in the back and people put money in that. My responsibility is to take that box and take it over to the safe. And there has to be 2 people all the time when there's money at church. So someone's with me, and then he goes and gets a different box, and I'm with him to make sure that he doesn't steal anything. And so that's a huge responsibility. If you guys were called by your pastor tonight and say, hey, we have a couple greeters that can't show up tomorrow, can you do it? You'd say, sure. but it's one of 15 things you need to do over the next 24 hours. For him, it's the only thing that he's got going for that week. A couple just stories about curriculum. We happen to have enough adults that we can have a class for adults with disabilities, and we're continually asking them, guys, what do you think? We're sort of like segregated. You know, it's an adult class, but it mostly has people with disabilities. Do you think that's okay? And they're like, yeah, because we can understand the Bible. And I don't want to go to the marriage class. I'm not getting married. I definitely don't want to go to the Revelation class because that's scary with all the devils and the horses with the hooves and the angel wings. And I don't understand about Revelation. And then there's another one about becoming a member of the church. I'm already a member of the church. So yes, I choose this class. And so then we need to think about, okay, curriculum. So our goal is when somebody walks by our classroom, they're like, oh, that looks like a cool adult class. We're not singing Jesus Loves Me. We're not doing flannel graph stories. We definitely don't do arts and crafts. We open our Bibles. Even if you can't read, we give you a Bible and you carry it to church and you carry it to class because you're part of the club if you got a Bible. Because the pastors always said, open your Bible. So you're opening your Bible. I feel like I'm belonging. I have a Bible. And we have a worship team, and we do an adult-appropriate lesson that all of you have learned from, but it doesn't have flowery kind of language. A couple times we've had people come in, and someone did a lesson one time about God is eternal. So that means he never had a beginning, he never has an end. And she talked a lot about eternal, and the guy next to Jeff poked him and says, I don't know what all this God is turtle stuff. So completely missing the point because eternal is such a hard concept for even me to understand. Or if we talk about someday we'll be up in heaven, there was a gal that said, I don't want to go to heaven because I don't like heights. And so just being very specific with the kind of language that we're learning. And we never go shh to anybody in the class because would you do that to somebody in an adult Sunday school class that didn't have disabilities? Would you tell someone to? Now, sometimes the volunteers in our class are talking too loud and we'll go, hey, cut it out. You can't hear what we're saying here. And they'll go, oh, sorry. Or if someone is having a conversation about what they want to do with their dog that afternoon and they're talking like this, rather than whispering, we'll say, remember, whisper, because other people want to listen to what's going on. But just part of vocalizing or being loud is just part of being a person. And so we're never telling people to shush. I could be leading announcements or Jeff could be teaching and somebody could walk right up and say, and Jeff, I would say, well, thank you for sharing. And they give you a high five and they go sit down. They just wanted a connection. So it's not the kind of thing where you're trying to make them sit or make them be quiet. There is some curriculum that Jeff and I have written that's available on Amazon. It's the Sunday school class that we have is called Light and Power. We wanted a name not like Special Friends or Innocent Angels or things that would be more inappropriate for adults. And so it's light and lessons from Light and Power. It's $10, an entire year's worth of curriculum for Psalms, Romans, and Hebrews. And it sort of talks about a little of the principles that I've discussed today in it also. Oh, it looks like I'm zeroed out. So let me just give you my contact information here. I would be more than happy to answer any emails, schedule a call with you. You can text me or email me if I can be helpful at all with any of the kids stuff that I didn't go over or any ideas to be able to integrate adults into your church. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm so sorry I had to sit all day.